technique itself, you're not going to get very far. Maybe at some point, once they get more ready and have some like, gee, maybe I should do better on this, then that's when your motivational interviewing comes in very well. The other question, you guys did great on all of your compassion fatigue and burnout. I mean, like over 90% of you got that correct.
We all know why that is.
Yeah, yeah, we all know about that, don't we? The confidentiality, you all did very well, anywhere from 89% to over 90%. So I don't know, Shirley, was there anything that really important point that you wanted to stress, or did somebody have a particular question that you wanted to put in the chat?
I did want to kind of go back to the last question or comment that someone had made at the end of the day about some of the terms that we use as providers that maybe sometimes could be found offensive to patients. And although I think that none of us do anything intentionally, I do want to make people understand that there's frustration sometimes on our end. And, you know, we do the best we can to try to make sure that patients' needs are being met. We try to train as many people and, you know, let people understand the importance of recognizing already patients who have felt stigmatized and embarrassed and ridiculed over the majority of the time. And I think when we hear people say things that probably don't sound politically correct, I just want to say that it's just important for someone to take that person aside and just gently tell them why that might be offensive to somebody. I know, like I said, when our team probably formed several years ago, those were some of the words that we would use within our own team meetings. I mean, we didn't go out in the community and say things like that. And it really wasn't until we had our first SCCAPE conference, which at that time was in person, that had come up. And our patients that were in the audience, either as advocates or our community-based organization representatives, have really talked to us about that. And so we've tried to be a lot more sensitive to the fact that, yes, we get frustrated. Don't get me wrong. Not every sickle cell patient is complex, and not every sickle cell patient, you know, comes in and is, you know, raising our flags every day. But when you're seeing some of the same behaviors and you're seeing some of the same challenges every day, you get frustrated. And so, you know, just be aware of sometimes of what you're saying and who you're saying it to. And if someone does find something to be offensive, don't call someone out in a crowd. That's really unprofessional. You know, take somebody aside, say, listen, I found what you said offensive, or, you know, let me just kind of explain it to you in a different way. Maybe see the perspective of the patient who already feels all of these things on a daily basis that they've been experiencing most of their life. And that's how we learn. It's a teachable moment. So I think we're all teachers to everybody. I'm sure that there might even be some things that we've talked about here this week that maybe you're like, geez, if I, you know, had to listen to that again, I might like really get upset about it. Let us know, okay? That's how we learn. We're all here to talk to one another and help one another, because the bottom line is we want to serve our patients the best way we can. We have limited resources across the country for people with sickle cell disease, and we want to keep the individuals who are wanting to work with patients with sickle cell disease in our practices. So our best way together is to be team builders and to be able to talk to one another and make sure that, you know, if something is going astray, that we're letting people understand why that is. And again, do it professionally, quietly, and not in a group, and make sure that, you know, you have a good dialogue. Just like the racial comments that Dr. Smith had talked about. When you get in a room and you start talking about race and stigma and bias, it's the same kind of thing. So, you know, use these as moments when maybe once a quarter, have a team building exercise. I know we haven't done that for a long time, even in our program. We haven't done it for several years. But it is a way for us to be able to learn. And I just wanted to stress that, because I did kind of feel through that question. I understood where it was coming from, and I didn't want to just walk away and end the day on that. And I just wanted to ask if there's any more comments about that. Please put them in the chat. We'll be more than happy to address them. But I think that was really important. And thank you for the person who did put that question or comment out there to us, because I did think it was something we should go over. That was it for me.
I'm going to put you on the spot and ask a question from the other side. In that kind of situation, which we had confirmed that people have observed and seen that, would it be appropriate for a provider or the person who made the comment to actually go to the patient and acknowledge that and maybe apologize for that? Or is that, I'm asking what others think.
I mean, I would say yes.
Yeah.
But sometimes those circumstances don't always happen.
That's true.
You know, that patient might be gone and maybe they won't see them again, especially if you're in the emergency department where there's rotating people through.
Right.
But I think any time that, you know, you've done something to hurt someone's feelings, if you have an opportunity to kind of express that, I think that's important. And, you know, maybe we figure out ways to do that. Do you call someone on the phone? You know, if there's a team member involved, like a patient navigator who normally is the one who hears about these things.
Yeah, right.
You know, maybe say, hey, next time, you know, Johnny's coming into the clinic, you know, would you mind maybe popping in and having a, you know, 5-second conversation with him and letting him know that you were really sorry.
Right.
And I think that those are ways of continuing to build relationships. I think that's, and the trust factor that we talk about. It all kind of goes into that hand in hand.
Right.
You know, remember, when somebody breaks your trust, it's really hard to get that trust back.
It. Right. And I guess my background, I totally agree. And that's when, remember we talked about effective communication. That's where, you know, even if it's maybe the nurse that was in the room and heard it out, you know how we have such privacy in our situations. We have curtains and they really do cut down on sound, don't they? And you can hear it. I think it would be very appropriate if I was the nurse standing there with the patient and heard it. I might, especially depending on my relationship, I may even use touch or even lean in and say, you know, that was inappropriate. I do apologize. I don't know about what you guys think, but I can certainly, I've been kind of in that situation, and I don't see that as being inappropriate, and I've actually been the recipient, and I felt good about it to have somebody acknowledge it. Okay, no questions in the chat on that, so we will go on.
Okay.
The culture piece, y'all did excellent. I mean, it was in the upper 80s or 90%. And I think that's something that I know we've got a few people that have been at one of our earlier scapes, and that makes me feel better because we purposely did not include some of that basic culture 101 because we felt that the audience we were looking at now already had that information, and with the test questions, that confirmed, okay? But I'll just say that if you were doing a training for entry-level community health workers, and that's what some of you may be doing in the next couple of years, please, you need to go back and really put some of that basic information in there, because most people have not learned about specifics of what is a culture and what does it mean to be in a culture, and all those things that we did with our entry-level CHWs, because they may not have heard those concepts. So, you know, what we're doing now is evolved from what we did earlier and what we did with our initial training. The other one has to do with motivational interviewing. Motivational interviewing is a technique used to persuade someone to make health changes. And over 61% of you got that right, and that is not a true statement. In that motivational interviewing, the concept is partnering with that patient and working. And remember, we did the little readiness assessment and looking at the readiness of that person. And if they're not ready to do that, you're not going to change. Have any of you had somebody try to convince you to change your behavior? It doesn't work. Okay, you've got to have some willingness. So the concept in motivational interviewing is truly that partnering and not directing. Remember in the little schemer we had, directing was way over on that far left side. That is not what motivational interviewing is all about. So just to clarify that and kind of emphasize that. Otherwise, your confidentiality, your information about HIPAA, and those things y'all did really well on. So if I see that we don't have any other further questions, comments, I think we're ready to move on, and Shirley gets to be on. So I'm going to get out of the way.
Before I actually go on, we're going to switch things up just a bit. Mm-hmm. So this is a pretty long, drawn-out morning of me speaking, which I know could be something that, you know, after a while you're going to take your cup of coffee and you're going to want to, you know, go take a nap, and I don't get offended by that. So we are going to do a little bit of an icebreaker, and because I'm not the best person to do icebreakers, I'm going to recall up my colleague, and he is going to do something to make all of us laugh this morning. And he's sitting here saying, I have No idea what you're expecting me to do. I'm putting him on the spot, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to do that anyway. So Daniel's going to come up before I get started, and we're going to go from there.
All right. I haven't planned an icebreaker, but I have a corny joke. So how do astronauts plan a birthday party? If someone has an idea, they can let me know. In the chat, maybe? Nothing? Well, the planet, their planet, Planet, has a planet on Earth. That was all that I had. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. We were trying to put him on the spot, if you have not figured that out. Okay.